The morning sun begins its slow climb above the savannah, casting a warm gold across a land scarred by time and trial. Acacia trees stretch their twisted fingers toward the sky, their silhouettes etched against the pale light, like the bones of a forgotten kingdom. Beneath them, the grasses whisper with the stories of ancient power, of conquests and betrayals that stretch beyond memory. Somewhere in the tall grass, a lion raises his head, not to hunt, but to rule. His mane, dark with age and dust, shifts with the breeze, but his eyes remain fixed on the horizon. This is no ordinary predator. This is a king in waiting. And in the lion's world, thrones are carved in blood. Contrary to their regal image, lions are not noble rulers. Their lives are defined by political upheaval, violent takeovers, and betrayals that would shame any royal court. Power among lions is not inherited, it is seized. Male coalitions, groups of brothers or allies, roam for years in search of a pride to overthrow. Once they find one, the coup is swift and merciless. They do not just chase off the reigning males, they erase them. More precisely, they erase everything they left behind, including the cubs. In lion society, infanticide is not madness but strategy. By killing the offspring of their rivals, incoming males force the females back into heat, allowing the new rulers to sire their own bloodlines without delay. Reproductive urgency, not malice, drives this grim calculus. The violence does not end with the takeover. Within a coalition, alliances are fragile. Brothers may share power for a time, but ambition never sleeps. Dominance hierarchies emerge, sometimes leading to internal conflicts that fracture coalitions and leave prides vulnerable to outside challengers. Some males, pushed out by their own kin, become nomads, exiled kings waiting for another chance. The savannah is littered with their broken empires and shattered dynasties. For a lion, survival is a campaign, not a life. Females, often seen as passive members of the pride, are in truth the engine of its continuity. A lioness lives her entire life among her sisters, forming bonds that can span decades. These alliances are fierce and formidable, especially when it comes to defending cubs. Lionesses will fight to the death to protect their young from rival males, hyenas, or even other lionesses during internal disputes. Their cooperation in hunting and cub rearing is a cornerstone of pride stability, but it also masks the tension that can boil beneath the surface. When food is scarce, lionesses have been observed abandoning weaker cubs to save the rest, or even turning violent on one another over limited resources. In some regions, such as the Serengeti and the Okavango Delta, pride dynamics shift with the land. In wetter areas, where prey is abundant and territories are more stable, coalitions may hold power for years. In drier regions or more contested terrain, the average tenure of a male coalition can be as short as 2 years. This fleeting reign adds urgency to the cycle of reproduction and cub protection. Cubs that survive to adulthood are the exceptions, not the rule. In fact, studies suggest that fewer than 1 in 5 cubs make it to the age of 2. Among these high-stakes politics, cubs grow up in a minefield of threats. Even after infanticide is avoided, disease, starvation, and competition pose constant dangers. Male cubs, in particular, face a cruel trajectory. Once they reach adolescence, they are driven from the pride by their fathers or uncles, a forced exile designed to prevent inbreeding. These young males become wanderers, often forming alliances with other exiles. Their survival depends not just on strength, but on their ability to forge bonds, because no lion, not even the fiercest, reclaims a throne alone. While lion hunts receive much of the attention in popular media, their social structure is far more complex and in many ways more brutal. Lions are not nature's clean-cut kings. They are warlords presiding over a system fueled by aggression, sexual competition, and high infant mortality. Even their famed roars, echoing across kilometers of grassland, are less declarations of territory than warnings of instability. A pride is always at risk. Every dawn could bring challenges. Every night could end with cubs gone silent. Recent research has revealed that some coalitions are becoming larger and more sophisticated in their tactics. In regions with high male competition, super coalitions of 5 to 7 males have formed, overwhelming smaller pride defenses and maintaining power longer. Yet this also leads to more infighting once the pride is secured. The bigger the throne, the more contested the crown. And despite their status as apex predators, lions are vulnerable. Human encroachment, habitat loss, and retaliatory killings from pastoralists have shrunk their range dramatically. Once rulers of nearly all of Africa and parts of Asia, lions now occupy less than 10% of their historic territory. Their battlefield is shrinking, and their kingdom is under siege. But the bloodline war rages on. In the heart of every pride, cubs are born beneath uneasy stars. Some will vanish before their first moon. Others will rise, challenge, and fall. And a rare few, through alliance, cunning, and brute force, will seize the moment and reign, however briefly, as kings without thrones. No crown is safe, no bloodline is sacred. In the lion's world, survival is not about courage. It's about timing, betrayal, and knowing exactly when to strike, even if it means killing your legacy to secure your name. The forest floor is damp beneath the monsoon-soaked canopy, rich with decay and silence. Shafts of filtered sunlight pierce the ceiling of leaves, painting dappled patterns across a maze of underbrush. Cicadas drone with a mechanical rhythm, their song masking the faintest of movements. A sambar deer stands frozen, its nostrils flaring as it scans the dense foliage. Nothing stirs, but within the brush, the air is charged with tension. Somewhere close, crouched in the layered shade and shadow, waits the largest cat on earth. Still as a fallen log, invisible in its orange and black camouflage. This is not a chase. This is a trap. And the tiger never announces its presence until the moment it strikes. Unlike lions, tigers do not rule through spectacle or sound. They do not need coalitions, nor do they roar to claim a territory daily. They govern through invisibility. The jungle is their ally, a tangled fortress of cover and silence, allowing a creature the size of a motorcycle to vanish without a trace. Tigers are ambush predators by design. Every aspect of their body, from their padded paws and shoulder-slung gait to their facial whiskers and acute hearing, serves a singular purpose: the perfect silent kill. When they move, they do so with deliberate stillness between each step, freezing mid-motion if prey shifts. They don't chase, they calculate. A tiger's strike is not immediate. It begins hours before the kill, with careful positioning and an almost obsessive patience. Often, a tiger will observe a herd for long stretches, picking out the weakest or most distracted member. It will shift downwind, creep along trails used by prey, and finally flatten itself in tall grasses, ideally within a 10-meter burst zone. When the attack comes, it's a rapid, coiled explosion of muscle. The tiger lunges forward, aims for the neck or throat, and brings the prey down with crushing jaws that can exert over 1,000 pounds of pressure. The whole event may last less than 10 seconds, but it's the hours of invisible stalking beforehand that define the tiger's hunting style. It is not a predator of chance. It is a strategist of stillness. Despite their massive size, tigers are astoundingly agile. They can leap over 5 meters horizontally, swim across rivers with ease, and drag carcasses twice their weight into cover. Solitude is not a disadvantage, but a strategy. Tigers are solitary by necessity. A single adult male may command a territory spanning over 100 square kilometers, an expanse dictated not by dominance, but by the availability of prey and water. Females hold smaller ranges, often overlapping slightly with the males, but there is little tolerance for trespass. Encounters between adult males almost always end in violent conflict. Fresh claw marks on tree trunks, urine sprays on bushes, and scat left at key trail junctions serve as territorial markers, invisible lines drawn in blood and scent. While other predators rely on numbers or speed, the tiger's greatest weapon is efficiency. It does not waste energy. A failed hunt means a potential multi-day fast. A successful kill must be hidden and consumed over time. Tigers cache their prey in thick cover and return to feed for several days, often shifting the carcass to avoid detection by scavengers like leopards, jackals, or even sloth bears. They are not picky eaters. Deer, wild boar, monkeys, birds, and even porcupines fall within their diet. But each meal is hard-won, and the tiger treats it as such. What makes the tiger's story more compelling and more tragic is its shrinking stage. Once ranging from eastern Turkey to the Russian Far East and across the entire Indian subcontinent, the tiger's empire has collapsed into a patchwork of isolated pockets. Habitat loss, poaching, and conflict with humans have driven this apex predator to the edge. Today, fewer than 4,000 wild tigers remain. Their hunting grounds have become fragmented, and their genetic diversity has begun to erode. Even in protected areas like India's Bandhavgarh or Nepal's Chitwan National Park, tigers face threats from illegal logging, road construction, and livestock encroachment. The top predator is being slowly boxed in. Despite their decline, tigers have shown remarkable resilience. Camera traps have revealed individuals returning to areas where they had vanished for decades, reclaiming old corridors and establishing new dynasties. Female tigers with cubs will often remain in a secure area for years, teaching their offspring hunting techniques and territory boundaries. A rare glimpse into the subtle social side of this otherwise solitary species. Males, once thought to be indifferent or even hostile to cubs, have occasionally been observed sharing kills with their offspring or tolerating their presence. Behaviors still under study, suggesting more complexity in their behavior than previously understood. Each subspecies of tiger has adapted uniquely to its habitat. The Siberian tiger, cloaked in thick fur, treads snow-covered forests in near silence, while the Sumatran tiger navigates tangled lowland swamps with ease. Even their stripes differ, narrower in the Sumatran, broader in the Bengal, acting as perfect camouflage in their specific environments. Unlike leopards, whose spots help them vanish in trees, or lions who rely on open plain tactics, the tiger's stripes function as a disruptive pattern in dense jungle, breaking its outline into the vertical rhythm of grass and shadow. In many traditional cultures, the tiger holds a revered and feared status, a spirit guardian, a symbol of power, or an omen of danger. In modern ecology, it has become an umbrella species. Protect the tiger and you protect the entire ecosystem beneath it. That philosophy has spurred international conservation efforts, tiger corridors, anti-poaching patrols and community involvement programs. Still, progress is slow. The tiger's greatest threats remain political and economic, not biological. In the wild, the tiger continues its silent reign. It walks trails where humans rarely tread, passes through villages without a sound, and kills with precision honed over millions of years. It does not roar to announce itself. It does not leave carnage in its wake. Its legacy is not written in blood, but in absence. A disappearing paw print, a sambar deer gone missing, a shadow slipping between bamboo stalks. The jungle makes room for the tiger not out of respect, but out of necessity. It is part of the system, a regulator of prey populations and balancer of ecosystems. Yet even the most perfect predator cannot survive without space. The tiger's silence, once its greatest weapon, may become its undoing in a world that only responds to noise. Conservation requires attention, and attention ironically must be earned by a predator that would rather vanish than perform. In the end, the tiger remains what it has always been, a ghost in the tall grass, patient, powerful, and perilously close to fading forever. The night drips like ink across the forest, softening every edge, muting every movement. In this velvet darkness, the leopard begins to stir. A sudden flick of its tail sends a ripple through the dry leaves below, but the sound is swallowed whole by the stillness. Perched on a thick branch high above the ground, the cat's golden eyes glow faintly as it surveys a patch of open clearing bathed in moonlight. The air is humid and sharp with the scent of bark and bone. Somewhere below, a bushbuck nibbles at the undergrowth, oblivious. The leopard makes no sound. It has already calculated the angle, the distance, and the margin for error. For this predator, invisibility isn't a defense. It's a weapon. Leopards occupy a unique place in the hierarchy of carnivores, not by dominating others with size or brute strength, but by mastering the art of disappearance. Where lions form coalitions and tigers carve out vast territories in dense forests, leopards thrive in the in-between. The shadows between branches, the edges of villages, the crumbling boundaries between wilderness and human sprawl. They are among the most adaptable predators on Earth, found in African savannas, Himalayan foothills, rainforests, and even deserts. Their success lies not in confrontation, but in avoidance, staying hidden, striking quick, and retreating before trouble ever begins. A leopard's body is engineered for stealth. Its spotted coat, more technically a rosette pattern, breaks up its outline in both shadow and sun, allowing it to blend seamlessly into environments as different as dry scrub and thick jungle. Unlike lions, who often hunt in teams and tire quickly, the leopard relies on solitary, calculated movement. It hunts alone, drags kills alone, and raises cubs alone. With forelimbs packed with dense muscle and shoulder joints that allow for upward rotation, leopards can haul prey heavier than themselves straight up into trees. This vertical strategy serves multiple purposes. It hides the kill from scavengers like hyenas, keeps it safe from lions, and allows the leopard to feed in peace, often over several days. The kill itself is a display of restraint turned explosive. Leopards creep within meters of their prey, whether it's a deer, a primate, or even a domestic dog in suburban India, and strike with a sudden burst of speed and precision. Their jaws clamp down on the throat or back of the neck, severing the spinal cord or cutting off the air supply. Death is swift, but there's no fanfare, no roar. The leopard doesn't linger. It immediately scans the environment, grips the carcass in its jaws, and begins the arduous climb upward. This behavior has been recorded with kills weighing well over 100 kilograms, suspended in branches more than 5 meters off the ground. There is no other big cat that matches this vertical power. In a landscape full of rival predators, this aerial safe zone is a necessity. Beyond their hunting skill, leopards exhibit behaviors that set them apart socially and cognitively. Although solitary, they are not always antisocial. In certain areas with abundant prey, leopards have been observed tolerating overlapping territories, especially if resources are not scarce. Mothers raising cubs show remarkable patience and adaptability, often moving them between multiple dens to reduce the risk of predation. Cubs are taught by example, following their mother silently on hunts, mimicking her ambush stances, and even attempting awkward tree climbs with half-buried scavenged kills. But the most surprising trait of the leopard is not its stealth or strength. It's its adaptability to human presence. In some regions of India, leopards roam freely through densely populated towns, appearing on security cameras at night as they leap over fences and patrol narrow alleyways. They navigate rooftops like tree branches and disappear into drainage ditches at dawn. And still, attacks are rare. Most urban leopards feed on feral dogs, livestock, and garbage scavengers. It's a dangerous dance, one that becomes lethal when boundaries are pushed or fear drives retaliation, but it reveals just how flexible this predator has become. In fact, in cities like Mumbai, leopards are so integrated into the local environment that their movements are tracked by conservationists using GPS collars and camera traps, building urban coexistence strategies that would be unthinkable for any other big cat. Leopards also hold an unusually prominent place in both folklore and fear. Across Africa and Asia, they are depicted as witches in animal form, omens of death or messengers from the spirit world. Unlike lions, which represent nobility, or tigers, which symbolize raw power, leopards are often viewed with unease, perhaps because they are so rarely seen, yet always suspected nearby. Their elusive nature has made them legends, but that mythos masks their reality. Leopards are among the most persecuted big cats on Earth. Their skins, sought after for ceremonial and commercial reasons, fetch high prices on black markets. Retaliatory killings for livestock losses, habitat encroachment, and poaching have eroded their numbers in many areas. Several subspecies, including the Amur and Arabian leopards, are now critically endangered. Despite this, the leopard endures. It endures because it doesn't rely on strength alone. It doesn't need open plains or pristine reserves. It thrives in scraps, in forests torn by development, in lands shared with farmers, and even on the fringes of war zones. It is one of the few large predators that has found a way to live alongside humans, often undetected. But this coexistence is fragile. It relies on silence, on space, and on the leopard's ancient ability to melt into its environment like smoke. The forest is quiet again. The bushbuck is gone, claimed in silence. Up in the branches, a faint rustle betrays the predator's position, followed by the soft sound of claws gripping bark. The leopard lies still beside its kill, licking its bloodied forepaw with the same calm as a house cat cleaning after dinner. The moon slips behind a cloud. In the sudden darkness, the tree becomes just another shadow, the cat invisible once more. There is no trace of the hunt, no sound, no spoor, no witness. Only the stillness of the night, briefly disturbed, now perfectly restored. The ghost has fed, and it has vanished. The savannah lies motionless in the early light, soaked in the dusty hues of dawn. Golden grass shimmers with a thin sheen of dew, bending gently under the weight of the rising heat. Somewhere in the waist-high expanse, a Thompson's gazelle raises its head, ears twitching, eyes sharp. There's a brief pause, a silence filled with potential energy. Then a blur of motion explodes from the grass. The cheetah doesn't rise. It ignites. A flash of spotted muscle slicing through the plain, legs moving in a rhythm faster than thought. In seconds, the gazelle bolts and the chase begins, a brutal, breathtaking sprint through the very limits of biology. The cheetah's hunt is a moment of perfection drawn from a lifetime of risk. Unlike other predators, this animal has traded almost everything for speed. Its lightweight frame, narrow waist, elongated limbs, and highly flexible spine work in concert to produce a mechanical marvel. With each stride, the cheetah's spine acts like a spring, stretching and recoiling, hurling the cat forward up to 25 feet at a time. Its claws, non-retractable like cleats, dig into the soil for traction. Its tail acts like a rudder, swinging like a pendulum to adjust balance mid-flight. And as it accelerates, reaching over 100 kilometers per hour in a matter of seconds, its breathing rate skyrockets to nearly 150 breaths per minute, lungs and heart pounding against the limits of endurance. But this supercharged design comes at a steep cost. For all its elegance, the cheetah is a fragile predator. Built for acceleration, not confrontation, its bones are light and delicate, prone to injury in prolonged fights. Its jaw structure is weak compared to other big cats, limiting the size of its kill. A cheetah cannot afford a struggle. It must kill quickly, usually by tripping the prey and clamping down on the throat to induce suffocation, and eat before larger carnivores arrive. Lions, leopards, hyenas, even vultures can drive it off a kill in seconds. And when they do, the cheetah rarely fights back. The risk is too great. One injury, a fractured leg, a torn tendon, and the world's fastest land animal becomes a scavenger at best, carrion at worst. Even the act of sprinting comes with limitations. The cheetah's body overheats rapidly during a chase, and if it doesn't bring down its prey within 30 seconds, it must stop. Continued pursuit risks fatal heat stroke. This physiological ceiling adds even more pressure to a process that is already wildly inefficient. Despite its unmatched speed, cheetahs succeed in fewer than half their hunts. Every chase burns precious energy and exposes the cat to competition. And when cubs are present, small, chirping bundles that follow clumsily through grass and thorns, the stakes become even higher. Mother cheetahs bear the burden of raising young alone. They nurse, protect, teach, and feed their cubs without the help of a pride or pack. Cubs are hidden in dense underbrush, moved regularly to avoid detection. Mortality is cruelly high. In some areas, as many as 90% of cubs do not survive their first year. Predators pick them off, one by one. Even drought and disease take their toll. The irony is stark. An animal built to outrun anything on the plain cannot outrun the slow violence of ecological collapse. The evolutionary path of the cheetah is one of specialization pushed to the edge. Fossil records reveal that today's cheetahs descended from a genetic bottleneck event over 10,000 years ago, likely during the last ice age. That event wiped out much of their genetic diversity. Modern cheetahs are so inbred that individuals across continents are nearly indistinguishable at a genetic level. Skin grafts from one cheetah to another rarely get rejected, a phenomenon almost unheard of in wild mammals. This lack of diversity poses a deep risk. It reduces resilience to disease, weakens fertility, and limits the species' ability to adapt to rapid environmental change. Habitat loss has compounded these problems. As agricultural expansion, road networks, and livestock grazing carve the savanna into fragments, cheetahs find themselves squeezed between shrinking territories and increasing human conflict. They are often blamed, wrongly, for livestock deaths, leading to persecution and retaliation. In reality, cheetahs prefer wild prey and avoid humans when possible. But in a landscape crowded with people and competition, options are few. Conservationists have turned to innovative strategies: livestock guard dogs, wildlife corridors, and ecotourism models that incentivize protection. Still, these efforts must race against the ticking clock of land conversion and political instability. Cheetahs are also loners in an increasingly cooperative world. Unlike lions or African wild dogs, they do not benefit from coordinated hunting or group defense. Males may form coalitions, often brothers, and hold small territories, but these are the exception, not the rule. Most cheetahs, especially females, live solitary lives. This solitary nature makes population recovery slow. A single cheetah removed from a population by vehicle collision, poaching, or relocation represents not just an individual loss, but the weakening of an already fragile thread in the ecosystem. Yet for all their disadvantages, cheetahs endure. They endure not through strength or power, but by mastering the margins. They hunt at times when other predators are less active, dawn and dusk, using light and shadow as allies. They move silently across enormous distances, covering up to 100 kilometers in a day in search of prey. They adapt their diets when necessary, targeting smaller species, avoiding fights they cannot win. And when they run, the savanna seems to hold its breath. The air parts around them, the ground blurs beneath them, and for a brief moment, evolution forgets gravity. The sprint ends as quickly as it began. Dust settles into the grass. A gazelle lies still beneath the cheetah's slender frame, its final struggle etched in the surrounding soil. The cat pants heavily, flanks heaving, its spotted coat streaked with sweat and blood. There is no roar, no announcement, just the quiet urgency of feeding before the scavengers arrive. Already vultures circle overhead. In the distance, a hyena's cackle breaks the morning calm. The cheetah eats fast, ears twitching with every sound. This meal is a reward but also a gamble, and the odds are rarely kind. For the cheetah, life is not just a chase, it is a countdown, a calculation of risk and reward repeated every day in an environment that favors power over precision. And yet, despite being outmuscled, outnumbered, and outlasted, this predator still runs, still survives. And in those fleeting seconds of perfect motion, when its paws barely touch the earth and its spine coils like a spring, it reminds the world that beauty often comes from fragility, and that even the most vulnerable hunter can be the most breathtaking to watch. The sky is bruised with dusk as the savanna exhales the day's heat. The golden grass, scorched by the sun, rustles with a dry whisper as nocturnal life begins to stir. A herd of wildebeest edges closer to a distant waterhole, cautious and wide-eyed, but the real drama is already unfolding elsewhere. Deeper in the bush, where the shadows thicken and hierarchy rules not by strength alone, but by cunning, rank, and an unexpected power shift. A low whoop breaks the evening stillness, followed by the unmistakable cackle that has haunted Africa's predators and prey for millennia. The spotted hyenas have emerged. In the popular imagination, hyenas are scavengers, cowardly, conniving parasites that trail lions and steal from nobler predators. But this caricature couldn't be further from reality. Spotted hyenas, the most widespread and formidable of the hyena family, are hunters first and foremost. In many ecosystems, they account for more than half of the kills. They are not thieves, they are tacticians. Operating in coordinated units called clans, they can number up to 80 individuals, each with a clearly defined role and status. At the center of this organized chaos is not a dominant male, but a ruling female. Larger, more aggressive, and biologically built to dominate. The matriarch is the absolute authority in hyena society. Her offspring inherit her elevated rank, which affords them priority access to food, breeding rights, and protection. This female-dominated hierarchy is enforced not by brute violence alone, but through a complex language of social cues, body posture, vocalizations, scent marking, and ritualized behaviors that structure the daily life of the clan. Lower-ranking individuals must defer, often visibly bowing or groveling in the presence of their superiors. It's a rigid order, but one that allows a large number of highly intelligent animals to live, hunt, and raise young in relative cohesion. Hyenas are astonishingly intelligent. In cognitive tests, they outperform chimpanzees in solving cooperative problems. Their brains are larger relative to body size than many carnivores, and their social intelligence rivals that of primates. Observations in the wild show them recognizing individual clan members by vocalization alone, remembering past interactions, and adjusting their strategies based on shifting alliances. Unlike many predators that rely on instinct alone, hyenas calculate. They evaluate opportunity, risk, and reward with a degree of flexibility rarely seen in the animal kingdom. Their physical capabilities are equally impressive. Built for endurance, hyenas can run long distances at steady speeds, wearing down prey with relentless pressure. Their front legs are longer than their rear, giving them a sloped, almost awkward gait that belies their stamina and power. But it's their bite that sets them apart, capable of generating over 1,100 pounds of force, enough to crack open elephant bones. This crushing power allows them to consume almost every part of their kill: bones, skin, hooves, even horns. Very little goes to waste, making hyenas among the most efficient carnivores alive. The clan's hunting strategies reflect this versatility. While some hyenas scavenge, others coordinate active hunts, especially at night. Under the cover of darkness, a group will isolate a target, often a juvenile wildebeest, an injured zebra, or even a full-grown buffalo if numbers are sufficient, and initiate a relentless chase. Unlike big cats, which use explosive speed and stealth to strike, hyenas rely on teamwork and attrition. They probe, harass, and exhaust their prey, testing its defenses before launching a coordinated assault. The moment of the kill is chaotic, brutal, and fast. Each hyena knows where to position itself, when to bite, and when to back off. It's not just a frenzy, it's choreography in the dark. Despite their evolutionary success, hyenas are rarely admired. They suffer from a persistent public relations crisis. Their vocalizations, which range from whoops to groans to eerie, high-pitched giggles, sound unnervingly human, feeding myths and superstitions across cultures.
In some folklore, hyenas are witches' familiars or shapeshifters. In others, they symbolize cowardice or treachery. This perception is not just inaccurate, it's dangerous.
Misunderstood and maligned, hyenas are often killed on sight, poisoned by pastoralists, or persecuted as vermin in areas of human-wildlife conflict. Yet hyenas are crucial to ecosystem health. Their bone-crushing jaws and digestive systems make them nature's cleanup crew, recycling nutrients that would otherwise linger and spread disease. Their presence regulates prey populations, limits carrion accumulation, and balances predator dynamics. In regions where lions and hyenas coexist, the two engage in a constant struggle for dominance, not through direct battle alone, but through territory contests, scavenging duels, and the subtle art of psychological warfare. Hyenas will chase off lionesses from kills, stand ground against younger males, and even raid dens in acts of strategic sabotage. The power struggle is perpetual, the balance of fear ever shifting. Socially, hyena cubs are born into competition. From the moment of birth, usually in underground dens dug into termite mounds or riverbanks, sibling rivalry begins, sometimes lethally. In litters of two, if both are of the same sex, one cub may kill the other within days. This brutal start is not universal, but it reflects the high stakes of survival in a society where rank is inherited and opportunities are few. Mothers are fiercely protective, nursing their cubs in secrecy for months, sometimes up to a year, before allowing them to join the rest of the clan. During this time, cubs develop their social instincts and practice hunting behaviors through play, honing the skills they'll need in a world that offers little mercy. Hyenas also exhibit remarkable vocal behavior. Their laugh, the signature giggle-like cackle, is not a sound of amusement, but of social tension. It often signals submission, frustration, or a plea for help. Whoops, on the other hand, are long-range calls used to assemble the clan or announce territory. Each call carries unique acoustic signatures, enabling individuals to recognize each other across vast distances. In the savannah, where visibility can be limited, sound becomes the glue that holds the group together. In times of scarcity, clans may fracture into smaller foraging groups, adjusting their behavior to survive lean periods. During droughts or prey migrations, they may move into marginal lands, scavenging where others starve. This ability to switch tactics, from hunter to scavenger, from large group to small splinter, is one of the reasons hyenas have outlasted countless competitors in the evolutionary race. They don't rely on a single strength. They rely on adaptability. As the night deepens, the hyena clan feeds together around a wildebeest carcass brought down hours earlier. Jaws crunch through ribs like firewood. Rank determines who eats first, but even the lowest ranked individuals will get their share eventually. In the background, lions roar, a territorial announcement. The hyenas don't flinch. Their ears twitch, their heads lift briefly, but they continue. This is their land too, and they know it. They've outnumbered the lions before. They'll do it again. Here, in the margins of reputation and in the center of chaos, the spotted hyena reigns, not as a villain, but as a queen. Complex, strategic, deeply social, and fundamentally misunderstood, she is the master of the uncelebrated kill, the matriarch of a world that rewards those who play the long game. Evolution has made her not just a survivor, but a ruler, of mayhem, of myth, and of the night. The wind moves like a blade across the frozen landscape, carving ridges in the snow and stripping the air of sound. Pines groan under the weight of ice, their branches stiff and brittle, cracking occasionally in the cold silence. In this vast, snow-blanketed wilderness, there are few signs of life. Just an endless white, broken only by dark trees, and the meandering trails of past footsteps, long filled with drifting frost. But then, a sound rises above the wind. Not a cry, not a scream, but a long, deliberate howl. It begins low, gathering resonance, swelling into the frozen stillness like smoke through a cathedral. The call is answered. Another voice, then two more, then many. It is not chaos, but harmony. This is how wolves mark their presence. Not through conquest, but through unity. A single wolf is rarely a threat, but a pack, a tightly knit social machine, is among the most effective hunting groups in the natural world. It is not the strength of the individual that makes the wolf a super predator, it is the code. A set of instinctual rules embedded across generations. Cooperate to survive, sacrifice to thrive, follow the order or fall. From the Arctic tundra to the mountain forests of Yellowstone, grey wolves have adapted to some of the harshest climates on Earth, not by dominating alone, but by learning the intricacies of the group. At the heart of every pack is a social structure that's as rigid as it is functional. Each wolf understands its place in a hierarchy shaped by dominance, age, experience, and reproductive status. The so-called alpha pair are not tyrants but parents, typically the only breeding pair responsible for leading the group and raising the next generation. Their leadership is based not on aggression but on earned authority. Below them are the beta wolves, lieutenants who help maintain order. And further down, the subordinates. Even the lowest-ranking wolves, the omegas, serve a role, absorbing social tension and redirecting conflict that might otherwise tear the pack apart. This is not mindless submission, it's a living strategy, a survival framework in motion. Wolves are problem solvers. When hunting, their tactics adapt to prey size and terrain. In deep snow, they target the weak or old, exhausting their quarry in a drawn-out chase. In forests, they use ambush tactics and flanking maneuvers, pushing herds into confusion. Against large prey like moose or elk, wolves work with precision. One or two wolves harass the flanks, while others move in to hamstring the animal or distract it into an exposed position. The kill is rarely quick, and it's almost never clean, but it is methodical, efficient, and shared. Contrary to popular belief, wolves do not gorge selfishly. The kill is distributed by rank, but even the omegas will eat, eventually. In fact, wolves have been observed regurgitating food for other members, especially pups and the elderly. They cache surplus meat in snowbanks, bury bones, and remember exact locations for retrieval days later. The survival of the pack depends on the health of all its members, not just the dominant ones. Pups are born in spring, typically 4 to 6 in a litter, blind and helpless. For the first few weeks they remain in a den, a burrow or hollowed-out log, while the entire pack adjusts its routine around their needs. Hunting trips become shorter, communication increases. Older siblings help babysit, learning the rhythms of care that will one day define their own roles. By midsummer, the pups begin to explore, trailing behind adults, mimicking behaviors, nipping at tails, and learning through games that blur the line between play and instruction. The pack becomes not just a hunting team, but a classroom. The wolf's voice, its howl, is not a declaration of dominance, but a tether. It reinforces social bonds, coordinates movement, warns rivals, and recalls members scattered across kilometers of snowy wilderness. Each wolf has a unique vocal signature, and a trained ear can distinguish individuals by tone and pitch. On cold nights, when the pack is stretched thin across a hunting ground, a chorus of howls becomes more than sound. It becomes cohesion made audible, yet for all their unity, wolves are not without conflict. Disagreements flare over mates, food, or hierarchy, and occasionally escalate into fights that leave scars or drive individuals to exile. Lone wolves, those cast out or voluntarily separated, must navigate the wilderness without the support of the pack. Some will wander for hundreds of kilometers in search of new territory or a mate. Others will attempt to start new packs. Many will not survive. Solitude is a high-risk existence in a landscape ruled by group dynamics. But it is also how genetic diversity spreads, how new clans form, and how wolves reclaim ecosystems from which they were once eradicated. Such was the case in Yellowstone, where grey wolves were reintroduced in the mid-90s after being hunted to extinction in the region nearly 70 years prior. Within a decade, the landscape began to shift. Elk herds, once unchecked, became more cautious and mobile. Vegetation recovered in river valleys. Beavers returned. Songbirds increased. This phenomenon, known as a trophic cascade, underscored a powerful ecological truth. Predators do not just kill. They shape the very flow of life across ecosystems, and few do so as broadly and as subtly as wolves. Yet the wolf's legacy remains contested. In many parts of the world, they are still seen as threats to livestock, to livelihoods, to traditions. Misunderstood and politicized, wolves walk a fine line between reverence and vilification. In North America, Europe, and Asia, their conservation status fluctuates with public opinion, legal protection, and shifting boundaries between wilderness and human settlement. In places where they are protected, populations recover and stabilize ecosystems. Where they are persecuted, balance unravels, slowly but inevitably. Back on the snow-covered ridge, the pack regathers, their breath fogs in the frigid air, tails held high, bodies pressed together in quiet contact. One nuzzles another. A pup tumbles between legs, its oversized paws clumsy on the ice. The matriarch surveys the open plain below, where shadows stretch long and prey trails cross the wind. There is no urgency now. The hunt is finished. The pack will move again soon, together as always, reading the cold not as an obstacle, but as part of the code they've followed for thousands of years. In this frozen domain, the wolf survives not because it is the strongest or the fastest, but because it remembers what many species forget, that survival is a shared act, that in the coldest, hardest places on Earth, the greatest power lies not in dominance, but in discipline, strategy, and the quiet strength of those who do not break ranks. The blizzard continues. The trail disappears, but the pack moves on. At the edge of the alpine tundra, where the snow line creeps like a ghost down the mountainside and the wind scrapes frost from the lichen-covered stones, the earth begins to stir. What emerges from a shallow depression in the hillside is not a ghost, though its breath curls in the morning air like vapor from a different age. The grizzly is awake. The hibernation haze clings to its fur, matted with soil and the long, stale residue of slumber. It blinks against the cold light and rises slowly, more mass than motion at first, until muscle reclaims its memory. The hunger returns next, immediate and immense. From this moment forward, everything the grizzly does will revolve around a single objective: restoring what was lost during the long winter fast. In the months to come, this bear will walk hundreds of kilometers, crossing meadows, riverbeds, forests, and alpine heights in search of food. It will dig through roots, strip bark, flip boulders, fish in glacial streams, and chase prey with the unpredictable fury of a creature too large to be agile, yet too determined to fail. The grizzly is not the largest bear species on Earth. That title belongs to the polar bear, but it is arguably the most versatile. Ursus arctos horribilis, as its scientific name grimly suggests, is an omnivore evolved for extremes. Extreme terrain, extreme hunger, extreme opportunity. Despite its reputation as a carnivore, the grizzly is an opportunist at heart. Up to 80% of its diet can consist of vegetation, grasses, berries, tubers, and nuts, especially in spring and early summer. But its digestive system, powerful and broad spectrum, allows it to switch rapidly to high-calorie protein sources when available. Carrion, small mammals, bird eggs, and in key regions, salmon runs, become vital sources of fat. It is this flexibility, not brute force alone, that has allowed grizzlies to dominate such a wide ecological range across North America. Yet, when the moment calls for violence, the grizzly does not hesitate. A swipe from its forepaw, powered by thick shoulder muscles and 5-inch claws, can shatter bone. Its bite, capable of cracking femurs, is not designed for elegance, but for access, to marrow, to life, to the heart of survival itself. It does not pursue prey with the finesse of a big cat, nor does it rely on pack coordination like wolves. When a grizzly hunts, it does so in bursts of terrifying directness, short charges, mauling strength, and overwhelming size. Moose calves, elk fawns, even adult caribou can fall victim in the right season, especially when desperation eclipses caution. The annual salmon run is one of the few times this solitary creature tolerates the presence of others. Along gravel bars and river mouths, dozens of grizzlies gather in uneasy proximity, as silver bodies flash upstream, leaping against gravity toward death and reproduction. Here, grizzlies show remarkable behavioral flexibility. Some stand in the current, jaws ready. Others swipe from the banks, anticipating mid-air leaps. The most successful may cache dozens of fish in cool shallows for later consumption. But even in this feast, there's hierarchy. Larger, dominant individuals claim the best spots. Subadults and females with cubs circle the fringes, stealing where they can. Conflicts flare. Roars and mock charges ripple up the banks. Yet somehow the energy of the moment suppresses outright chaos. The need to feed overrides the instinct to fight. The physiology of the grizzly is built around this seasonal rhythm. Over the summer and fall, the bear enters hyperphagia, a phase of intense eating in which it may consume 20,000 calories a day, gaining 2 to 3 pounds of fat daily. This fat is not merely insulation, it is currency, survival stored beneath the skin. When winter returns and snow begins to close the valleys, the bear will retreat into its den, a hollowed hillside, a root mass, a dug-out patch of forest floor. There, heart rate drops to as low as 8 beats per minute. Body temperature lowers, but only slightly compared to true hibernators. For up to 7 months, the bear will not eat, drink, urinate, or defecate. It will recycle its own waste into protein, heal wounds, and, for females, even give birth in the dark warmth of the den. Grizzly mothers are among the most fiercely protective in the animal kingdom. Cubs are born in January, blind and helpless, feeding from fat-rich milk while the mother sleeps intermittently. When spring thaws the snowpack, the family emerges into a world of risk. Predators, including male grizzlies, pose a threat to cubs. So do humans. The mother's behavior becomes hyper-vigilant, aggressive at any perceived threat, ready to defend her offspring with lethal resolve. And yet, for all their intensity, many cubs will not see a second winter. Survival rates vary by region, but predation, starvation, and displacement all take their toll. Even in protected areas, the bear's dominion is fragile. Grizzlies once ranged from Alaska to Mexico, from the Pacific to the Great Plains. Today, their range is a shadow of its former extent, fractured by development, agriculture, and centuries of eradication campaigns. In the lower 48 United States, grizzly populations now persist only in a handful of isolated ecosystems, including Yellowstone and the Northern Continental Divide. In these enclaves, conservation efforts have helped stabilize numbers, but tensions remain. The bear's immense spatial needs, individual home ranges can exceed 1,000 square kilometers, often clash with human land use. Encounters are increasingly common at campsites, on hiking trails, in ranchlands. When bears become habituated to human food, the result is often fatal, not for the people, but for the bear. Despite these conflicts, many communities have begun to view the grizzly not as an enemy, but as an emblem. It is a symbol of wildness that demands space, respect, and nuance. Scientists collar and track bears with increasing precision, mapping their movements, studying their diets, even analyzing their scat for microplastic ingestion. The data reveals a creature not of mindless aggression, but of precision, a responsive, intelligent omnivore navigating a shrinking mosaic of safety and threat. As the alpine winds return and the berries grow scarce, the grizzly makes its way toward the shelter of the forest. Its body is heavy now, wrapped in a thick layer of fat and fur, the product of relentless foraging and constant conflict. The grass beneath its paws bends and springs back as if relieved. A raven circles above, watching, waiting. The cycle continues. The bear pauses by a half-frozen creek, water gurgling beneath the ice, and sniffs the air. It does not rush. Time moves differently for an animal that can vanish for half a year and emerge whole. For now, the hunger is quieted, the bones are safe, and the blizzard is still far off. In this wilderness, survival is not dramatic. It is methodical, measured, earned. And the grizzly, this great misunderstood bone-crushing nomad, has earned every step. The horizon is flat, endless and almost silent. Wind moves across the Arctic ice like a slow exhale, lifting flurries of powdered snow and shaping the frozen expanse into ridges and troughs that stretch beyond the eye. Light bounces off the surface in waves, not warm golden light, but a hard reflective gleam that can blind without warning. Beneath this pale sky, the ice groans softly. It shifts, it fractures, it drifts. And walking across it, one deliberate step at a time, is the polar bear, a ghost of power moving through a world that is vanishing beneath his feet. His body is colossal, but built for the elements. Shoulders broad and heavily muscled, paws the size of dinner plates, spreading his weight across the fragile crust. His fur, often described as white, is in truth translucent and hollow, trapping air for insulation and scattering light in a way that renders him nearly invisible against the snow. Beneath that fur is black skin, absorbing every ounce of sun, and under the skin, a thick layer of fat. The armor he must rebuild each year to survive the coming months of scarcity. This bear, a mature male, has not eaten in days. He's been walking for hours, maybe longer, tracing scent trails carried by the wind. His nose, thousands of times more sensitive than ours, sifts through the frozen air for the faintest sign of life. The musky trace of a seal's breath rising through a snow-covered blowhole. Unlike wolves or lions, he cannot afford to waste energy. Every step, every pause, every decision is weighed against the cold mathematics of survival. Eventually he stops. Not randomly. Here he knows the ice is hollow beneath the snow. He's found what he was searching for, a breathing hole. Underneath this frozen ceiling, a ringed seal surfaces every few minutes, punching through the ice to inhale before diving back into the safety of the dark sea. The bear lowers himself slowly, pressing flat against the snow. Motionless now, he waits. Not for minutes, but for hours. In temperatures that would kill most animals in minutes, he becomes a statue, patient and alert. When the seal returns, it never sees him. The bear's strike is a sudden explosion of weight and speed. One massive paw plunging through the snow, claws extended, followed by jaws that clamp down with shocking precision. If the catch is successful, it ends quickly. If not, the bear simply waits again. There is no fury, no frustration. Just another calculation in a life measured by calories and cold. But these hunts are no longer as reliable as they once were. The Arctic ice, once stable and expansive through much of the year, now forms later, breaks earlier, and drifts unpredictably. Where once bears could roam for months across frozen platforms in search of prey, they now find gaps, open water, and thinning flows. Many are forced to swim for miles, not the short icy dives they've evolved for, but desperate crossings between fragmented ice sheets. These long swims are exhausting and dangerous, especially for mothers with cubs. Some drown. Some survive but emerge weakened, underfed, and vulnerable to further loss. Unlike other large predators, polar bears depend almost entirely on a single food source: fat-rich seals. The energy gain from one adult seal is substantial, but the opportunity to hunt is diminishing. On land, the options are few. Berries, bird eggs, even carcasses can provide occasional nourishment, but they cannot sustain a body built for the top of the food chain. Polar bears have been observed eating kelp, scavenging human garbage, and even preying on seabirds or caribou. Behaviors once rare, now more common. These changes are adaptations, yes, but they are not triumphs. They are signs of distress. Biologically, the polar bear is a masterpiece of cold weather adaptation. Its thick fur repels water and insulates against wind. Its partially webbed paws act like snowshoes and paddles. Its metabolism adjusts seasonally, slowing during periods of food scarcity. Mothers can fast for up to 8 months while nursing cubs in their dens, drawing entirely on their fat reserves. Cubs are born in midwinter, hairless and blind, cradled in snow dens dug into banks or hillsides. The maternal bond is fierce. For more than 2 years, the cubs will follow their mother, learning to walk, to stalk, to wait, not by instruction, but by example. Yet even the strongest mothers cannot protect their cubs from the changing ice. As the Arctic warms at more than twice the global average, denning grounds become less stable. Melting snow collapses shelters prematurely. Rising temperatures alter the timing and location of seal pupping, reducing hunting success. In some regions, cub survival has plummeted. Adults grow thinner, juveniles fail to reach maturity, and across the north more bears are spotted near human settlements, rummaging through waste, wandering onto roads, approaching cabins, not out of aggression, but hunger. This proximity to people creates a new risk. In communities across the Arctic, polar bears are both revered and feared, a cultural symbol and a threat. Management strategies vary: hazing, fencing, bear patrols, relocation. Some are shot in self-defense. Others starve just beyond the lights of town, their presence too dangerous to ignore but too tragic to confront. Scientific tracking has revealed sobering truths. Collared bears now cover more ground than ever before. Their paths, once efficient loops across predictable ice flows, are jagged and erratic. Some show prolonged fasting. Others die before their collars are recovered. The data is not just statistical. It tells the story of a species unraveling, not quickly, but incrementally, as a habitat melts from underneath it. Yet despite this slow erosion, the polar bear remains for now a symbol of raw power. When it walks, the tundra yields. When it hunts, the world goes quiet. Its presence at the top of the Arctic food chain is not just ecological, it is ancestral. For millennia, the bear has ruled these frozen seas, invisible in the snow, patient as the ice itself. But the throne is crumbling. There is no drama in its fall, no climactic end, no battle lost. Just ice that forms too late, seals that come too few, and bears that wander too far. In the pale light of a vanishing world, the polar bear continues to walk, through fog and snow, through hunger and drift. Not because it is resilient, though it is. Not because it is strong, though that is undeniable, but because for now it must, until the ice says otherwise. Dawn rolls gently across the Mopane woodland, its pale light spilling through low brush and casting long shadows across the parched earth. The air is still cool, laced with the tang of dust and dew. Bird calls echo in the distance, interrupted only by the occasional snapping twig or scurrying of rodents returning to their burrows. Then, almost silently, they emerge, lean, mottled bodies moving in synchrony, ears rotating like radars, legs twitching with tension. The African wild dogs are awake, and somewhere beyond the tree line, breakfast is still breathing. They move quickly, not like cats stalking in silence, but like runners at the start of a coordinated drill. There is no crouch, no wait and pounce posturing. Their method is different, kinetic, communicative, and highly efficient. The pack is a single entity, each member responding instinctively to the other. Vocalizations chirp back and forth, short bird-like calls that seem almost playful, yet they carry strategic weight. These are not random sounds, but tactical exchanges, updates, confirmations, decisions. The African wild dog, or Lycaon pictus, is perhaps the most successful predator on the continent, not in terms of strength, but in results. Their hunting success rate hovers around 80 to 90%, dwarfing that of lions, leopards, and even hyenas. This is not due to luck or superior speed, though they are fast, reaching up to 60 kilometers per hour during a chase. It is because of organization. In the world of predators, wild dogs are the generals and foot soldiers of a perfectly executed ambush. The morning hunt begins before the heat arrives. Antelope, usually impala, sometimes kudu or wildebeest calves, graze in the open with twitching ears and watchful eyes. The wild dogs approach not with stealth, but with deliberate positioning. They do not rely on surprise alone, but on strategy. Some fan wide to the flanks, others press forward. They are reading the terrain, the wind, the distance to cover. And then, with no dramatic signal, the chase ignites. What follows is not chaos, but calibrated pressure. The pack pours forward, coordinated like cyclists in a peloton. Each dog takes a role. Some sprint ahead to panic the herd, others flank and steer. One or two hang back, preserving energy, ready to cut off a turn or relieve a tiring runner. The prey zigzags, lungs heaving, trying to outmaneuver them, but the dog's stamina wears it down. This is pursuit predation perfected, an ancient dance between endurance and collapse. When the takedown comes, it is brutal but fast. Unlike big cats that use suffocation, wild dogs dismember quickly. They attack limbs, flanks, the soft tissue of the belly. Death is often achieved in under a minute. What appears cruel to human eyes is, in fact, an efficient and comparatively quick method of dispatching prey. The kill feeds not just the fittest, but the entire pack. Even pups and injured adults eat first. This is one of the few carnivores where such egalitarian behavior is observed. It reflects the central truth of wild dog society. Survival is a team effort. The social structure of a wild dog pack is tight, cooperative, and deeply bonded. A dominant breeding pair leads the group, but power is not exercised through violence. Subordinates submit willingly, and the entire pack helps raise the pups. When pups are born, usually in an abandoned aardvark den or sheltered thicket, the group adjusts its behavior. Hunts are timed around feeding the young, and adults regurgitate meat for them, licking their faces and ears in gentle care. Even yearlings assist with babysitting, standing guard or playing gently with their smaller kin. Such behavior is not just instinctual, it is a cultural framework passed through generations. Their communication extends beyond sound. Body language, Tail position, head tilt posture, conveys status, mood, and intent. Their mottled coats, each with a unique pattern like a fingerprint, help them identify one another even at a distance. In a chase, this visual recognition becomes crucial. There's no time for hesitation. Each dog must instantly know who is where, doing what and why. Mistakes are rare, but for all their evolutionary success, African wild dogs are teetering on the brink. Less than 7,000 remain in the wild, scattered in fragmented populations across sub-Saharan Africa. Habitat loss, human-wildlife conflict, roadkills and disease, particularly rabies and canine distemper spread from domestic dogs, have ravaged their numbers. Packs require enormous territories, up to 1,500 square kilometers, and as human settlement expands, that space disappears. Fences, farmlands and highways fracture their hunting corridors, cutting off access to prey and mates. Even their greatest strength, the pack, becomes a weakness under pressure. If a dominant breeding individual is killed, the social structure can collapse. If one member contracts disease, close contact spreads it rapidly. Unlike more solitary predators, they cannot simply split and survive. They are designed to function together or fail. And yet they endure. Conservation efforts, collaring programs, vaccination drives, protected reserves, have begun to slow the decline. In Botswana, Zimbabwe, and parts of Tanzania, stable populations are holding ground. Community outreach programs that teach coexistence rather than retaliation have helped shift attitudes. Where tolerance grows, so does the dog's future. Back in the field, the hunt has ended. Bellies are full. The pups, now emerging from the brush, ears too large for their faces, yap excitedly, swarming the returning adults. Meat is shared through ritual regurgitation. There is no hoarding, no dominance display. Just the patient, practiced rhythm of a species whose survival depends on generosity as much as precision. A few meters away, two adults stand watch, ears swiveling. The savannah is never safe. Lions are their primary threat, stronger, more territorial, and entirely intolerant of competitors. Hyenas lurk as well, eager to steal a kill or ambush a lone straggler. Even vultures pose a nuisance, their arrival often a sign of scavengers inbound. But for now, the pack is whole, intact, and together. As the sun rises higher and the heat flattens the landscape, the dogs retreat to shade. They sprawl together, bodies overlapping, legs tangled, heads resting against one another. It's hard to see the lethal efficiency in these quiet moments. They look like pups, still full of play, still oblivious to the growing threats that surround them. But tomorrow, they will run again. They will hunt together, kill together, raise, protect, adapt together. In a continent shaped by conflict, scarcity, and competition, the African wild dog has mastered the most elusive of strategies: unity. Not the rigid command of a lion pride, nor the solitary defiance of a leopard, but a living network of cooperation, fast, fluid, and almost impossibly effective. Here in the fading bush, they remain what they've always been. Not just survivors, but strategists. Not just predators, but perfectionists. The death squad that rarely misses, and the vanishing masters of the collective hunt. The Amazon never sleeps. Even in the dim blue lull of dusk, the rainforest pulses with movement. Insects tick like clockwork from every leaf. Frogs trill beneath the undergrowth, and the air swells with the humid breath of a world so saturated in life that even the trees seem to whisper. Shadows stretch beneath tangled vines and palm fronds as the temperature cools by barely a degree. Nothing stands still here. But high on a riverbank, just beyond the flickering reach of twilight, something does. A jaguar crouches in silence, his coat a shifting tapestry of sun-flecked rosettes, though the sun itself is long gone. He is nearly invisible, outlined not by color but by the tension in the foliage around him, a stillness too perfect to be natural. His golden eyes fix on the surface of the Blackwater Creek below, where a capybara herd stirs and splashes along the shallows. To the untrained eye, he might seem out of place, too large for the branch he's balancing on, too bulky to leap with precision. But this cat is built for moments exactly like this, not for the sprint, not for the chase, but for the dive. Unlike most big cats, the jaguar is an aquatic predator by design. His broad, muscular body is compact rather than lanky, engineered more for power than speed. His jaw, more robust than that of any other feline, is a biological wrecking ball. Where lions suffocate and tigers go for the throat, Jaguars pierce the skull. It's not metaphor, it's mechanics. Their bite force, relative to body size, is the highest of all big cats, capable of punching through the thick armor of caiman skulls, turtle shells, and tapir bones with a single deliberate crunch. And he knows precisely where to strike. In the chaos of the jungle, he is surgical. The capybara closest to the edge lifts its snout and freezes. A rustle overhead, a brief flicker of motion, then impact. The jaguar drops with stunning force, his forelimbs extended, weight compacted behind his shoulders like a battering ram. The water explodes around them, and for a moment the scene is pure chaos. Churning ripples, flailing limbs, a cascade of sound swallowed quickly by the jungle. But it's over just as fast. One bite, driven through the back of the skull and into the brain, ends the struggle. The cat drags the kill up the bank with little ceremony and disappears into the thickets. The rest of the herd scatters, but it's a reflex. They were never the target. Hunting in the Amazon requires more than speed or strength. It demands patience, silence, and versatility. Unlike the open plains where predators can rely on visibility and sprinting power, the jungle is dense, humid, and claustrophobic. Every step crackles, every movement betrays. The jaguar has adapted by becoming an ambush artist. He can move silently through floodplain forests, swim across channels without disturbing the surface, and wait, sometimes for hours, beneath a single tree, his senses finely tuned to the rhythms of prey behavior. He's been known to take down monkeys from tree branches, strike an anaconda mid-coil, or snatch unsuspecting caimans straight out of the water. No predator in the Americas has such a varied menu or such audacious techniques. But with this range of tactics comes a strangely paradoxical life. The jaguar is both dominant and invisible. He rules the forest not by making himself seen, but by never being detected at all. Camera trap studies have revealed just how elusive they are. Even in areas where their signs are everywhere, they may only pass a single point once every few weeks. Their territories can span over 150 square kilometers, particularly for males, who patrol vast tracts of forest, floodplain, and jungle riverbank. Their movements are solitary and purposeful, often dictated by scent-marking trails, seasonal prey migrations, or courtship opportunities. The jaguar's aquatic prowess is not just anecdotal. In fact, its preference for water has shaped its range. Jaguars are most commonly found in the tropical and subtropical rainforests of Central and South America, especially along river systems like the Amazon, Orinoco, and Pantanal, where water is not an obstacle but a hunting ground. In the Pantanal, during the dry season, they've been observed fishing. Yes, fishing, by pawing through drying pools or stalking catfish in the shallows. During the wet season, when floodwaters expand their habitat, they adjust their behavior again, using elevated terrain and floating debris to their advantage. Few predators, if any, exhibit such fluid adaptation to the seasonal extremes of their environment. Socially, jaguars are fiercely independent. Males and females only come together briefly for mating, and even then, tension is palpable. Fights can break out between rivals over territory or females in estrus, and injuries from such clashes are often deep and ragged. Torn ears, gouged flanks, fractured jaws. Cubs are raised entirely by the mother, often hidden in dense underbrush or hollow logs, and she will guard them ferociously until they can fend for themselves. Juveniles remain with their mothers for up to 2 years before dispersing to carve out their own territories, often leading to long, dangerous treks through human-dominated landscapes. Because here lies the contradiction of the jaguar's reign. He is supreme in the forest, but the forest is shrinking. Deforestation, poaching, and infrastructure development have carved the Amazon basin into fragments. Jaguars now face habitat loss not just in terms of square kilometers, but in terms of ecological functionality. A dam that reroutes a river, a road that divides hunting territory, a ranch that replaces old-growth jungle with pasture. These are not just inconveniences, they are existential threats. Prey disappears, water becomes polluted, human-wildlife conflict escalates. And increasingly, the jaguar's dominance ends with a rifle shot, a poisoned carcass, or a stretch of open farmland too wide to cross. Yet in some regions, the cat endures, not just in the protected parks of Brazil and Peru, but in unexpected places. Along urban peripheries, within indigenous territories, even in ranchlands where forward-thinking landowners have partnered with conservationists to reduce conflict and monitor populations. The jaguar is not fragile, but like the rainforest itself, its resilience has a limit. And as climate change begins to alter rain patterns, river levels, and forest dynamics, those limits are being tested. Still, in the heart of the jungle, beneath the tangled canopy and above the blackwater streams, the jaguar moves as he always has, without sound, without witness, and with terrifying efficiency. His world is one of vertical paths and submerged crossings, of kill sites hidden from view and trails that dissolve behind him like mist. He is not merely a predator. He is an embodiment of the jungle's rules. Strike first, vanish fast, waste nothing. And so he moves on, the skull crusher of the green shadows, a cat built not just to survive in the wildest ecosystem on Earth, but to own it, quietly, completely, and on his terms alone. The mangroves breathe with the tide, their gnarled roots tangled like fists buried in salt-soaked mud. Crabs skitter sideways across slick banks, and herons wade with dagger-like stillness in the shallows, their long legs barely disturbing the glassy surface. At first glance, the estuary appears calm, a place of slow rhythms and filtered sunlight, where the jungle meets the ocean, and the water itself seems hesitant to move too quickly. But beneath this illusion of serenity lies one of Earth's most efficient and most ancient killers. Submerged just below the reflection of clouds is an eye, unblinking, unflinching, older than memory. The saltwater crocodile waits. It does not need to hunt today. It may not need to for several more. A single successful ambush can sustain it for weeks. And so it lies still, suspended just beneath the surface, its body invisible in the dappled light, its lungs holding enough air to float motionless for hours. Its heart rate slows to as few as 2 beats per minute. It listens, not with ears, but with the vibration-sensitive domes along its jaws, capable of detecting the ripple of movement through water, as precise as a dropped pebble. A wallaby steps too close to the river's edge. The crocodile does not charge. It vanishes. One subtle undulation of its powerful tail, and it slips silently beneath the bank, repositioning, adjusting for current, angle, timing. And then, in one sudden blast, it erupts. The speed is astonishing. For a creature weighing nearly a ton, the saltwater crocodile can launch from a dead float with terrifying acceleration. Jaws snap shut with over 3,600 pounds of pressure, the most powerful bite force recorded in the animal kingdom. Bones crack, blood hits water, the wallaby barely twitches. With a violent twist of its body, a maneuver known as the death roll, the crocodile spins, ripping apart sinew and silencing resistance in seconds. There is no need to chew. The chunks are swallowed whole, pushed down by a second set of jaws in the throat, the palatal valve, that allows the crocodile to feed underwater without drowning. What remains sinks with it into the gloom to be wedged beneath a root or rock for later. This is not just a meal. This is the ritual of survival, unchanged for over 200 million years. The saltwater crocodile, Crocodilus porosus, is not just the largest living reptile. It is among the most adaptable apex predators on the planet. Found from eastern India to northern Australia and across the islands of Southeast Asia, these reptiles rule an ecological zone most predators cannot: the intersection of fresh water and ocean. They are as comfortable basking in tidal rivers as they are drifting miles out at sea, their bodies buoyed by fat deposits and steered by broad, scaly tails. They navigate brackish estuaries, storm-racked deltas, and even coral-fringed lagoons, traveling silently between islands on ocean currents, often far beyond their apparent range. Tagging studies have tracked individual males crossing hundreds of kilometers over open sea, sometimes returning to the same nesting beach year after year. Such mobility is rare among reptiles, and yet for the salty, as Australians call them, it is routine. This nomadic mastery makes them uniquely dangerous to both prey and humans. Saltwater crocodiles are not territorial in the traditional sense. They will claim a prime ambush spot near a nesting ground or migration route and hold it for years, but they also move constantly. The rivers of Arnhem Land, the muddy creeks of Borneo, the beaches of Papua New Guinea, all are within their reach. In remote parts of northern Australia, warning signs are not optional, they are mandatory. A calm waterhole one day may house a 3-meter crocodile the next, with no visible sign of its arrival. Their ambush tactics are brutally effective. While basking on riverbanks or floating like driftwood, they appear inert. Ancient statues draped in algae, jawlines studded with barnacles. But beneath this camouflage is a mind honed by repetition. Crocodiles do not waste effort. They memorize. Where antelope cross, where fishermen clean their nets, where tides recede and pools trap stranded fish. Their eyes, equipped with vertical pupils and a reflective layer known as the tapetum lucidum, grant them sharp night vision. Their nostrils, perched high on their snouts, allow them to breathe while nearly entirely submerged. Every physical detail is a refinement of the ambush, honed not by modern innovation, but by deep, uninterrupted time. Evolution has made few adjustments to the crocodile since the time of the dinosaurs. That's because it hasn't had to. Their physiology is a template for success. Cold-blooded metabolism means they burn minimal energy when inactive. A large male may go months without feeding and suffer no ill effects. When food is available, they gorge, digest slowly, and store fat within their tails. Their lungs and liver can shift oxygen use and blood flow to prioritize vital organs, extending breath holds and maximizing endurance. Their skin, armored with osteoderms, bony plates embedded in the dermis, offers protection from both rivals and prey. Even their reproductive strategies are efficient. Females dig burrows in sandbanks and guard clutches of eggs for months. Hatchlings communicate with high-pitched calls from inside the shell, triggering their mother to gently excavate them and carry them in her jaws to the water. Parental care, while brief, is intense and surprisingly gentle for such a fearsome animal. Yet for all their evolutionary success, crocodiles are not invincible. Habitat destruction, pollution, and historical overhunting brought many populations to the brink. In the mid-20th century, demand for crocodile leather decimated their numbers in northern Australia and Southeast Asia. It was only through strict legal protections and the establishment of sustainable farming programs that wild populations rebounded. Today, saltwater crocodiles are considered conservation success stories, though this success comes with a new dilemma: coexistence. In many regions, especially where human development has expanded into crocodile territory, attacks have increased. Boats capsized, swimmers taken, children snatched from riverbanks. These are not malicious killings. They are opportunities, ambushes executed with the same cold logic used against a wallaby or wild pig. The predator does not discriminate. Management strategies range from relocation to lethal control, but the challenge persists: how to share a landscape with an animal that views almost anything as food. Still, the crocodile remains unshaken. While other species adapt, migrate, or vanish under pressure, it endures. Not because it bends, but because it doesn't need to. It waits. Through storms, drought, rising seas, and the flicker of civilizations that come and go along its rivers, it waits. And when the moment comes, when a foot splashes too close, when a heron slips, when a boar lowers its snout to drink, the water parts again. The violence is instant, the ambush is complete. And then the stillness returns. In this humid borderland between earth and sea, where time moves slowly and death comes fast, the saltwater crocodile continues its ancient reign. Not with speed, not with flair, but with patience older than history and jaws that close the book on hesitation. It is not a throwback, it is the original. The ambush that never aged, the predator that never left, and the silence that always waits. The sun doesn't rise on Komodo Island, it ignites. Heat radiates upward from the cracked earth long before the first light cuts through the forest canopy. Cicadas thrum with mechanical intensity. The dry wind rattles the brittle leaves of lonta palms. Dust clings to every surface, curling in the air with each step. This is not a paradise, but a crucible, a landscape of thorns, thickets, and ancient stone. And somewhere, motionless beneath a tangle of sun-bleached brush, something breathes low and slow. It doesn't blink, it doesn't rush. The Komodo dragon is watching. At first, it barely seems alive. Its armored scales blend perfectly with the cracked soil and dead branches. Its eyes, flat and amber, scan without urgency. But make no mistake, the Komodo is alert, and it is calculating. At nearly 3 meters long and weighing over 70 kilograms, it is the largest living lizard on Earth. A reptile not just preserved by evolution, but perfected by it. Each movement is deliberate, each breath measured. When it rises, it does so with the slow authority of something that doesn't need to chase. It simply waits for you to bleed. The prey, in this case a young rusa deer, moves nervously through the sparse undergrowth, nose twitching, ears flicking. It grazes cautiously, knowing from instinct that this island is not safe. The Komodo dragon begins to follow, not by sprinting or lunging, but by keeping its head low, tail straight, tongue flickering through the dust. It doesn't need to be fast. Its mouth is already a death sentence. For years, it was believed that Komodo dragons killed with bacteria. Their bites laced with over 50 strains of pathogenic microbes collected from rotting flesh, dung, and carrion meals. And while the bacterial load in their saliva is indeed formidable, recent research has revealed an even more precise weapon. Glands located in the lower jaw secrete venom, not neurotoxins like those of a cobra, but a complex blend that includes anticoagulants and enzymes that prevent blood from clotting. When the dragon bites, it delivers this venom deep into the tissue, weakening the prey over minutes or hours. Blood loss, shock, and organ failure follow. The bite doesn't kill on contact, but it doesn't have to. The dragon can wait. In the heat, the deer weakens. The wound worsens, it stumbles. When it falls, the dragon moves forward with startling speed. The lizard's gait is low and rolling, limbs splayed to the sides. But when it wants to close the distance, it accelerates with a muscular power rarely seen in reptiles. It grabs with tooth-studded jaws, shakes and pins. The deer struggles, briefly, but there is no escape. The dragon begins to feed while the body is still twitching. It tears through skin and sinew with serrated teeth curved backwards like steak knives. Nothing is wasted. Meat, tendons, even bone fragments are consumed. If the deer is still alive as the dragon begins to eviscerate it, so be it. Death here is not elegant. It is efficient. The Komodo dragon has no need for social graces. Feeding is a frenzy. When one dragon kills, others often arrive. The scent of blood carries through the air, not through nostrils, but through forked tongues that flick rhythmically, sampling airborne particles and delivering them to the Jacobson's organ in the roof of the mouth. They don't track scent the way mammals do. They taste direction. And when they find it, they come running. Fights break out at kill sites. Larger dragons dominate, forcing juveniles and smaller adults to the periphery. Clashes involve tail whips, hissing, and sometimes brutal grappling, bodies crashing into the ground, claws raking across armored hides. In some cases, cannibalism follows. Komodo dragons are among the few apex predators known to regularly eat their own kind. Hatchlings often spend their first few years in trees to avoid being devoured by adults. It's not metaphor. It's not anomaly. It's strategy. If you're weak, you're meat. Despite their monstrous reputation, Komodo dragons are not mindless killers. Their behavior reflects a high level of environmental awareness and memory. They have been observed ambushing goats left out by villagers, waiting along known migration paths, and even approaching humans in patterns that suggest learned association. In Komodo National Park, rangers are taught to carry forked sticks, not just to redirect dragons physically, but to assert space. These animals don't fear humans instinctively, they evaluate. Their success is not just about power, it's about place. The dragons are relics of an ancient lineage, surviving where other giants have vanished. Once, similar monitor lizards roamed Australia and Southeast Asia. Megalania, an extinct relative, may have reached lengths of 6 meters. Today, only the Komodo dragon remains. Isolated on a handful of volcanic islands in Indonesia, Komodo, Rinca, Gili Motang, and a few scattered parts of Flores. Their isolation has protected them from many threats, but it has also left them vulnerable. Climate change now looms over these dragons like a shadow. Rising sea levels threaten to shrink their already limited habitat. Droughts disrupt prey populations, and human encroachment, from illegal logging to poorly regulated tourism, continues to erode the delicate balance of the islands. While Komodo National Park provides some measure of protection, the dragon's future is not guaranteed. Conservation efforts focus not just on preserving individuals, but on protecting corridors of habitat, the hidden trails between forest, savanna, and coastline that sustain their movements. They are in every way survivors. Their metabolism allows them to go weeks without food. Their digestive systems can process bone, hide, and hooves. Their immune systems appear remarkably robust against infection, despite their diet. And their reproductive strategy, which includes parthenogenesis, the ability of females to reproduce without a male, ensures that even isolated individuals can start new populations, albeit with genetic risks. This is not mere adaptation, it is persistence written into biology. And so, in the blistering heat of Komodo, the dragons continue their dominion. They move through thorny gulches and volcanic slopes with the slow, confident rhythm of an animal with no natural enemies. They rest in caves during the hottest part of the day, emerging at dawn and dusk to patrol their territories. Their tongues flick, their eyes scan, and somewhere, a boar or a water buffalo grazes too long at a watering hole, unaware that an ancient shadow is watching from the brush. In this land of fire, dust, and tooth, the Komodo dragon reigns not as a fantasy, but as a fact. It does not breathe fire. It doesn't need to. Its breath smells of death. Its bite delivers it. And its hunger, like the island itself, never truly sleeps. It is not just a lizard. It is a relic of a forgotten age. A walking fossil wrapped in scale and venom. The living proof that monsters did not vanish with the dinosaurs. Some simply waited on an island long enough for us to find them again. The mountain air is thin and raw, unfiltered by foliage or heat. Above the crags and snow-dusted ridgelines, the sky stretches in silent expanse, so vast and clear it seems carved from crystal. A distant wind whistles through alpine canyons, tugging at loose feathers that spiral gently downward, the only trace of violence already past. Against this quiet immensity, a silhouette appears, a broad, dark shape gliding without effort on a thermal column invisible to everything but instinct. The eagle doesn't flap. It hovers on air alone, eyes locked to the ground like a marksman behind a scope. It isn't searching. It's choosing. Below, the world seems still, but to the eagle's eye, every muscle twitch, every shift of shadow is a map of opportunity. It can see 4 times the detail a human can, and it sees in ultraviolet, a hidden language of scent trails and waste stains painted across the earth. Nothing escapes its gaze. Not the flick of a marmot tail between rocks. Not the breath of a rabbit shifting beneath snow. Not the careless wobble of a young goat testing its legs near a cliff's edge. The eagle turns slightly, imperceptible to anyone watching, and begins its descent. What follows is not a dive in the human sense. It is a controlled collapse, a mathematical descent where speed becomes weaponized. The eagle folds its wings close, transforming its wide frame into a living missile. It drops at over 200 kilometers per hour, faster than a skydiver in freefall, faster than most birds can even fly level. The silence vanishes in an instant as the wind howls past its streamlined body. A mountain goat senses something, lifts its head, but there's no time to react. The eagle hits like a bomb, claws extended, striking not flesh but balance. Golden eagles, among the most formidable raptors on Earth, are known to use cliffs as weapons. They don't simply grip and claw their prey. They knock them off balance. A well-placed strike to the flank or neck of a goat sends the animal tumbling down sheer rock walls. The kill comes not from the talons, but from gravity. The eagle then spirals down to feed on the broken body far below. It is not cruelty, it is calculus. The raptor understands what cliffs can do better than claws. This is not a singular trick. Eagles have evolved dozens of killing strategies tailored to their terrain and prey. In lowland plains, they stoop from high altitude to pin ground mammals, foxes, hares, even small deer. Along coastal cliffs, they snatch gulls and seabirds mid-air or lift them straight from ledges. In arid deserts, they ambush snakes and monitor lizards with startling speed. Their diet shifts with region and season, ranging from fish to monkeys to tortoises. In Africa, some species like the martial eagle have been documented knocking vervet monkeys from trees. In Mongolia, trained golden eagles pursue wolves. But no matter the prey, the tools remain the same. The eagle's talons are immense, capable of exerting upwards of 400 pounds per square inch, rivaling the bite force of a large dog. The toes lock around bone and sinew with a precision that ensures a clean, secure hold. Its beak, sharply hooked and endlessly sharp, is used not for the kill, but for disassembly, tearing into viscera with the delicate patience of a surgeon at work. It may seem brutish from afar, but up close, the process is oddly methodical. The eagle eats what it needs, caches what it doesn't, and wastes nothing. Its physical design is a masterclass in evolutionary aerodynamics. Hollow bones reduce weight without sacrificing strength. Massive chest muscles, attached to a keeled sternum, power sustained flight. Their primary feathers act like individual fingers, adjusting in real time to subtle shifts in wind. Even in rough air, the eagle moves as if guided by thought, effortlessly banking and correcting, climbing and diving with a control that rivals any aircraft. Yet perhaps the most impressive feature is the eye. An eagle's vision is built not just for clarity, but for dominance. Its retina is densely packed with photoreceptors, enabling it to resolve fine detail from over 2 kilometers away. Its field of view is enormous, covering nearly 340 degrees, and still it can focus with binocular depth perception. Some species even have a small second fovea, a concentrated pit of vision that acts like a zoom lens, allowing them to lock onto prey without needing to shift their head. The mind behind the eye is equally formidable. Eagles learn. They recognize hunting grounds and remember past kills. They teach young not through words or instruction, but by flying side by side, passing technique through repetition and imitation. Juveniles practice swooping at inanimate objects, test-grabbing twigs, even chasing each other in mock battles to build strength and skill. The learning curve is steep. Many do not survive their first year, but those that do emerge as elite specialists in the art of predation. Despite this mastery, eagles are not invincible. They face threats both natural and human-made. Nestlings fall to storms, starvation, and predation. Adults occasionally misjudge prey, locking talons into a goat too large, or striking snakes that retaliate with venom. But the greater threat comes from above, or rather, from the world we have built below. Habitat destruction, poisoned carcasses, power lines, and wind turbines have taken an increasing toll on eagle populations worldwide. The very landscapes that allowed them to hunt for millennia are shrinking, fragmented by development and industry. Still, they persist. In some places, even thrive. Conservation laws, public fascination, and cultural reverence have shielded many species from extinction. In the United States, the bald eagle, once a symbol of endangered failure, now soars in growing numbers. In Central Asia, traditional falconers still partner with golden eagles, passing down knowledge through generations. And in alpine cliffs far from roads and fences, the original masters of air still rule the high wind. Now the eagle circles back to its nest, a massive structure of sticks and bones built into a rocky ledge or the crown of a tall tree. Some nests are decades old, added to year after year, weighing hundreds of kilograms. Inside, chicks huddle beneath feathers, wide-eyed and still too young to understand what rules the sky above them. They chirp, they beg, they watch. And in time, they will leap into the air themselves, not to glide, but to fall. And if the wind catches them, and if instinct does the rest, they will climb, upward, into the role nature designed for them. In a world where speed is nothing without precision, and power is useless without patience, the eagle remains the unrivaled tactician of the sky. It kills not because it must chase, but because it chooses when to strike, and when it does, the earth never sees it coming. Death doesn't rise from the clouds, it falls, with wings tucked, eyes locked, and talons open, and it almost never misses. Mist hangs low in the Virunga Mountains, clinging to the dense foliage like a veil. Every branch, every leaf, is soaked in dew, and the air is thick with the scent of wet earth and rotting fruit. Beneath the canopy, the forest is hushed, muffled by vegetation so dense it filters sound before it travels. In this cloistered world, movement happens slowly. A black back shifts behind a curtain of vines. Fingers curl around a bamboo stalk. A deep grunt ripples through the silence. And then, with an almost imperceptible ripple of motion, the gorilla appears. He does not arrive like a lion, no rush of force, no sudden pounce. He steps forward quietly, deliberate and measured, a shadow of immense mass dressed in shaggy black fur. The silver streak across his back flashes once between leaves before he settles into a squat, arms resting like pillars, chest broad and still. The silverback is not here to hunt. He's here to lead. He is, by every metric of muscle and bone, one of the most powerful mammals on land. But his power is not measured in violence. It's measured in restraint. Among the great apes, the gorilla is the heaviest and arguably the most misunderstood. Where chimpanzees display frantic energy and humans endless complexity, the gorilla is often reduced in popular culture to brawn alone. But the truth is far more nuanced. These animals, particularly the mountain gorillas of Central Africa and their lowland relatives further west, are not predators at all. They are folivores, leaf eaters, spending most of their day chewing through fibrous plants, bamboo shoots, and wild celery. Their massive bellies, shaped by an enormous gut microbiome, are fermentation chambers where low-calorie meals are digested slowly and thoroughly. Strength here is not built on meat, but on vegetation, and yet it surpasses that of any predator. As the morning warms, the troop comes into view. Females groom each other lazily, pulling mites and dried leaves from thick coats. Infants climb and tumble, occasionally squealing as they lose balance and fall into the lap of an older sibling. Young males, blackbacks, engage in mock displays, beating their chests, charging through the underbrush, testing the limits of their status. All the while, the silverback remains still, chewing, glancing only when necessary. Every member of the group orients to him. He doesn't need to assert control. He is control. Gorilla social structure is complex, but centered. A typical troop includes a dominant silverback, several adult females, and their offspring. Occasionally, subordinate males remain, tolerated by the leader unless they grow too bold. His role is not just to mate, though that right is his. It is to mediate disputes, protect from threats, and provide emotional stability. When a predator such as a leopard threatens the group, the silverback places himself between the attacker and the rest. He rarely fights. Often, display alone is enough. A charge, a scream, the thunder of chest beating. These are deterrents honed by generations of tension and release. The silverback is not bloodthirsty. He is a diplomat with a 600-pound negotiating presence. What makes gorillas particularly fascinating is not just their strength, but their intelligence. Tool use among gorillas is less frequent than in chimpanzees, but no less revealing. In swampy regions, they've been observed using sticks to test water depth or as walking supports. In captivity, they recognize themselves in mirrors, demonstrate rudimentary counting, and use gestures to communicate needs. Wild gorillas have been seen mimicking human behaviors when exposed to tourism, scratching their heads when confused, imitating arm movements of guides. Their vocal repertoire includes at least 20 distinct calls, ranging from soft grumbles to high-pitched barks, each signaling emotion, location, or warning. Yet, despite their intellect and organization, violence can erupt, rarely, but with force that is unmistakable. When silverbacks challenge one another, the confrontation is not immediately fatal, but deeply ritualized. Two males will face off, roar, display their size, and beat their chests in a rhythmic drumming made possible by air sacs in their chests. If that doesn't resolve the standoff, they may charge, wrestle, and bite. Fights are violent, but usually end with one retreating, humiliated but alive. However, if a challenger defeats a silverback and takes over a troop, the consequences can turn darker. Infanticide occurs, not out of cruelty, but as a reproductive strategy. By killing unweaned infants, the new male brings females back into estrus, increasing his chances of passing on his genes. It's a rare moment when the gorilla's strength becomes lethal, and it is a reminder, even the most peaceable societies harbor flashes of calculated brutality. But these moments are the exception, not the rule. A gorilla's day is not dominated by conflict, but by calm. They feed for hours, travel only when necessary, and rest in nests constructed from bent branches and leaves. At dusk, the troop settles. Each individual crafts their sleeping place. Mothers tuck infants beneath their arms. The silverback finds a quiet place with clear lines of sight. He doesn't close his eyes until every sound has been accounted for. The paradox of the gorilla lies in this contrast: immense strength paired with a near-philosophical temperament. A creature capable of crushing bones prefers to cradle its young. A jaw powerful enough to bite through thick wood is instead used to strip leaves gently from a stem. In the presence of humans, gorillas are wary, but often passive, more curious than confrontational. Attacks are exceedingly rare, and when they occur, they're nearly always provoked. For a creature built to dominate, the gorilla chooses dignity, but that dignity is under threat. Poaching, habitat fragmentation, disease, and political instability have reduced gorilla populations dramatically. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, gorillas face danger not only from illegal hunting, but from the encroachment of armed conflict into protected zones. Even in more stable areas like Rwanda and Uganda, ecotourism, while a vital source of conservation funding, places stress on gorilla behavior and exposes them to human pathogens. A common cold for a human can be lethal for a gorilla. Despite these challenges, there is hope. Conservation efforts, ranging from ranger patrols to veterinary care in the wild, have helped stabilize some populations. Community-based programs offer alternatives to poaching. Carefully regulated tourism funds schools, clinics, and employment in local communities. And in the forests, new silverbacks rise, inherit their roles, and continue the delicate act of leadership without conquest. As twilight descends on the mountains, the forest shifts again. Insects begin their chorus. A low grunt signals final nesting. The silverback moves once more through his troop, pausing to rest beside a female and her infant, his massive hand resting briefly on her shoulder. The moment is almost too ordinary to notice, but in it, a truth is written in the weight of the hand, in the stillness of the air. Strength here is not a roar. It is presence. It is patience. It is the refusal to use force when respect will do. In a world obsessed with dominance, the gorilla offers a different model, one where the greatest power lies in restraint, where the king does not kill but watches and waits and leads, not because he must conquer, but because he is the one others choose to follow. The sea is calm but tense. The sky, a flat grey, mirrors the unbroken surface below. No wind, no waves, just a low, pulsing hush, the distant churn of water moving where no eyes can see. Then, without warning, a black dorsal fin slices upward, towering and straight as a sail. Beside it, smaller fins break the surface in synchrony. They rise, breathe, and vanish. No splash. No sound but the slow exhale of vapor and salt. The orcas are here, and the ocean holds its breath. In the hierarchy of marine predators, orcas, or Orcinus orca, sit not merely at the top, but beyond. They are not scavengers, not opportunists. They are tacticians. Every hunt is a puzzle, every kill a lesson. Each pod moves with eerie cohesion, a team of assassins communicating through a language as rich and nuanced as any found in the wild. But what makes orcas truly formidable is not their size. Though a mature male can stretch over 8 meters and weigh as much as 6 tons. It's not their speed, though they can rocket through water at 56 kilometers per hour. It's the mind. This pod is focused. 5 individuals, tightly grouped, arc through the water like a single organism. They're not chasing fish today. They're hunting seals, and they've chosen the method carefully. Ahead, a solitary Weddell seal sprawls on a slab of pack ice, its head tilted lazily toward the wind. From below, the orcas gather in formation, adjusting their angle with minute flicks of their flippers. Then, as one, they dive. What happens next is unlike anything in the animal kingdom. The orcas swim together beneath the ice sheet, and with perfect timing, they surge upward in a coordinated wave. The pressure they generate lifts the edge of the ice, tilts it just enough, and sends the seal sliding helplessly into the water. Panic begins. The seal thrashes. The orcas don't rush. They circle, watching. One darts in, nudges it with a rostrum, then pulls back. Another glides beneath and slaps the surface with its tail, creating shockwaves. It's not a game. It's training and display. Young orcas watch and learn. The adults fine-tune tactics that have been passed down for generations. In some populations, this technique has evolved independently, practiced only in regions where the ice sheets are broad and flat. It is not instinct. It is culture. Orcas are not one species. They are one species with multiple distinct societies. Some specialize in fish, others in seals, some in rays or sharks. In New Zealand, a unique pod feeds almost exclusively on stingrays, flipping them upside down to induce tonic immobility before consumption. In Norway, herring-feeding orcas use tail slaps to stun fish into floating clusters before picking them off. In Patagonia, orcas rush beaches to snatch sea lions directly from the sand, sometimes stranding themselves momentarily in the process, a maneuver taught with care from mother to calf. Their most disturbing adaptations, however, emerge when orcas hunt fellow marine mammals. In the eastern Pacific, transient orcas, a population distinct from fish-eating residents, stalk sea lions, porpoises, and even large whales. The kill is ruthless and precise. A coordinated attack begins with silence. Echolocation shuts off. The orcas go dark. They approach using only passive hearing, riding the thermocline where sound travels differently. When they strike, it's strategic. Calves are separated from mothers. Adults are outmaneuvered. Flippers immobilized. Breathing interrupted. Some victims drown without ever being bitten. What follows is not always feeding. Transients have been observed killing porpoises and leaving the bodies untouched. Behavior that appears senseless until examined closely. These are practice runs, teaching moments for juveniles. Studies have shown calves play with the bodies of seals and dolphins, imitating adult movements, developing technique. They are being shaped into future hunters not by biology alone, but by mentorship. The sea, vast and opaque, has its own school, and orcas are both the teachers and the curriculum. This intelligence extends far beyond the kill. Orcas remember. Family units remain stable for decades, built around matriarchs who guide movement and decision-making. In some cases, post-reproductive females assume leadership roles, directing the pod with knowledge accumulated over half a century. They recall migration routes, feeding grounds, and dangers. When fish stocks collapse or seasonal storms disrupt patterns, the matriarchs adapt, rerouting pods through safer waters, shifting diets, even delaying births. The decisions made by these elders ripple through generations. Their communication is equally profound. Orcas use a diverse range of clicks, whistles, and pulsed calls. Each pod has its own dialect, a unique vocal signature that identifies it across vast distances. These dialects are learned, not inherited, and change over time. Some pods even adopt calls from others, blending accents in ways that suggest social exchange. Echolocation clicks allow them to map the ocean with uncanny precision. They can distinguish between fish species, detect a heartbeat, identify familiar individuals by sonar alone. To an orca, the ocean is not blind. It's lit with sound. And yet, for all their brilliance, orcas are not invulnerable. They face threats not from predators, but from us. Pollutants like PCBs accumulate in their fat, weakening immune systems and disrupting reproduction. Naval sonar disrupts their communication. Oil spills poison their prey. Captivity, for those orcas that survive capture, erodes every aspect of their social fabric. In concrete tanks, isolated from family and denied the space to roam, their intelligence turns inward, sometimes collapsing into depression or aggression. A mind designed for mastery of the sea cannot endure its absence. In the wild, however, they remain unchallenged. At the top of the food web, they regulate ecosystems as few animals can. Where orcas prey on seals, populations adjust and rebalance coastal fish dynamics. Where they target sharks, as they sometimes do, flipping great whites to extract only the liver, they shift entire marine traffic patterns. Their presence resonates far beyond their own behavior. They are, quite literally, the architects of the underwater world. Now, the seal is gone. The ice returns to stillness, broken only by the misty exhalation of a dorsal fin fading into distance. The orcas regroup, their work complete, their hunger sated. Beneath them, the ocean stretches on, deep, cold, and mapped in memories passed from mother to calf, from hunt to hunt, from wave to wave. They dive again, vanishing into their domain, not as monsters, but as minds. Minds brained for blood, yes, but also for thought, for memory, for a kind of mastery no other predator has ever reached. In the sea, death does not always come from speed or size. Sometimes it comes from the brain, wrapped in black and white, hidden beneath the silence, calculating from the shadows, and it almost always sees you before you ever hear it coming. The jungle does not announce the king's arrival. It falls silent. Beneath the shadowy tangle of bamboo and sal trees, the floor of the forest lies dappled in broken light and loose soil, as if the land itself has been disturbed by something moving with quiet authority. No crashing, no roar, just the faint hiss of scales gliding over leaf litter, barely audible above the soft rustling of insects. A dried husk of a toad lies flattened in the underbrush, old, forgotten. And then, in a slow, deliberate curve, the forest parts for a presence as feared as it is misunderstood. The king cobra rises. It doesn't strike. Not yet. Its hood, a flared shield of threat and ritual, expands as its body lifts from the earth. Not just a few inches, but high, chest off the ground, neck erect, eye level with a standing human. It sways slightly, tongue flicking in quick forked flashes as it tastes the air. This is not posturing. This is assessment. The king cobra is not an animal of panic or surprise. It is patient, sentient in its stillness, alert not just to movement but to intent. And in this moment, it is deciding whether to kill. Ophiophagus hanna, the snake eater. That is its scientific name, and it is not poetic. The king cobra lives by hunting other snakes. Rat snakes, kraits, pit vipers, even other cobras, all fall to its hunt. It is not driven by aggression but by a specialized appetite. This predator does not chase rodents in fields or skitter after frogs through flooded rice paddies. It pursues its own kind. And it does so with a precision that few animals, warm-blooded or cold, ever attain. Unlike most venomous snakes, which rely on ambush and brief strikes, the king cobra often tracks its prey over distance. It uses its forked tongue to sample scent trails, interpreting airborne molecules with its Jacobson's organ like a chemical radar. Once the trail is identified, it follows with eerie determination, gliding silently through the undergrowth until it finds its mark. Then with startling speed it strikes, not a defensive jab but a controlled, lethal lunge. Its fangs are short but fixed, delivering a high volume of neurotoxic venom that acts with brutal efficiency, paralyzing the prey's respiratory system and rendering it immobile within minutes. The victim doesn't bleed out, it just stops. The venom of the king cobra is not the most toxic in the snake world by sheer chemistry, but it is among the most dangerous because of quantity and delivery. A single bite can inject enough neurotoxin to kill 20 people, or an elephant. It shuts down the nervous system, causing drowsiness, blurred vision, and ultimately respiratory failure. And yet for all this lethality, the king cobra does not waste its weapon. It rarely bites in panic. Often it gives warning, rising, hissing, hood flared, holding back the strike unless pressed beyond tolerance. For a creature evolved to kill, it remains remarkably measured. But the most astonishing feature of this reptile is not its venom, it's its mind. King cobras display complex behavior that challenges many assumptions about reptiles. In the wild, they navigate large home ranges, territories that can span several square kilometers, often patrolled regularly. They recognize familiar paths and hunting grounds, retreating to known shelters and seasonal nests. Observations suggest an ability to remember not just location but outcome, avoiding human settlements where past encounters ended in conflict, and reusing successful hunting routes year after year. And then there is the nest. Among more than 3,000 species of snakes on Earth, only one is known to build a nest and guard its eggs, the king cobra. When the female is ready to lay, she gathers leaves and forest debris, curling her body to form a low mound, a rough but purposeful construction held together by the heat of decomposing plant matter. Inside, she deposits 20 to 40 eggs, tucks them deep, and coils atop the structure. She will remain there for up to 90 days, leaving only briefly to hunt. During this time, she is singularly focused. Anything that approaches is treated as a threat. Her behavior shifts from restrained to defensive, and she will not hesitate to strike if provoked. When the eggs hatch, she departs quietly. Her duty done, the hatchlings left to fend for themselves, venomous from birth and already instinctively aware of their role in the jungle hierarchy. Despite their fearsome power, king cobras are far from common. They are found primarily in the forests of Southeast Asia and India, preferring dense canopy, swamps, and bamboo thickets where they can move unseen. Their camouflage is exceptional. Olive or black scales broken with faint bands and a pale underbelly, and their movement is fluid, more like water than serpent. In the wild, they are difficult to spot unless one is actively looking. Most encounters happen by accident, and most of those end with the cobra fleeing. But in parts of India and Thailand, ancient relationships have formed between humans and these serpents. Snake charmers, temple keepers, and herpetologists all interact with king cobras under very different terms. In captivity, some cobras recognize handlers, adjusting their reactions over time. Their intelligence, still largely undocumented in formal science, is felt most by those who work with them closely. There is a look in their eyes, steady, deliberate, that suggests more than reflex. It suggests awareness. Yet the king cobra's rule is not secure. Deforestation, urban expansion, and indiscriminate killing have reduced populations across much of their range. Many are captured for the exotic pet trade, killed on sight out of fear, or displaced when their forests are cleared for agriculture. And as with so many apex predators, their decline destabilizes the ecosystems they once controlled. Without king cobras, populations of smaller, more aggressive snakes often increase, including venomous species more prone to human conflict. In a cruel twist, removing the king often invites chaos. Still, the throne remains. In the shadow jungle, beneath vines thick with moisture and canopies alive with monkey cries, the cobra endures. It does not chase glory. It does not seek conquest. It moves with the silent knowledge that its supremacy is earned not through terror, but through control. It does not need to kill often. It only needs to remind the world, every now and then, what a true predator looks like. When it rears again, hood wide, eyes level, tongue tasting the heat of the human pulse nearby, it doesn't do so in rage. It does so in calm. Cold-blooded not in emotion, but in temperature. A perfect engine of dominance, coiled in poise. This is the king. Not of speed, not of strength, but of restraint. A monarch that dines on his own kind, guards his unborn heirs, and sits, unmoved, atop a throne of venom.